Okay, we're in. We have been
Live.
dropping way too many gems, and we were like, we just got to hit record. We just got to hit record. So the topic we were talking about before we hopped in was the name for Twitter, Veritas Ananda. I'd love to hear you say that and explain the background of that name. And we were going into the potential pros versus the cons of going pseudo-anonymous on Twitter. So yeah, I'd love to start with the name. What does it mean?
Yeah, so Veritas means truth in Latin, and Ananda means bliss in Sanskrit. And I was just trying to cook up, something a little spicy. And it's kind of like we were talking about, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. It's so funny that we would start the podcast talking about this, because this is like an internal monologue that I've had for a while. Like, should I just go full government name or just keep it out there? And it's like, I've talked to my close friends about it. It's not a pressing thing, and it's honestly not that important to me, because I think your content speaks for itself. Your mission and value speak for itself. But it's like, I didn't want to really be self-promotional, like I didn't really want to just hop out there and be like, yo, buy my course, like, and kind of milk my audience like that. And sometimes it's difficult, because you might feel like you're getting punished for that perspective, because you're not cashing out like other people or whatever in the beginning. But it's like, authenticity is scarce, and like scarcity is what breeds value. So if you're really just authentic to your core and you're like, hey, I want to do it this way because I think it's cool, and if other people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. I don't know. It just pans out. You just have this kind of edge. You just have this sharpness to you. And yeah, I just had faith, and I still have faith through the experience that the puzzle pieces are coming together. But I'm starting to ramble here, so I'm gonna give it back to you.
Well, dude, I mean, it's such an interesting little topic about being pseudo-anonymous or anonymous, but a priority or a value being authenticity, right? That seems like a paradox on the surface. But what we were talking about before we hopped in is you're just trying to be a conduit and a channel for something higher than you to speak through you. And I almost wonder if by going anonymous or pseudo-anonymous, it's easier to become that clear channel, because there isn't this self persona of Jack Moses or insert your government name that becomes a barrier of friction to a message being channeled through you. Whereas if you're going through some alias or some mission, okay, it's easy to become a channel for that mission, because it's not really about you, which is an interesting perspective. I would almost love for like a day to be able to play the game from your account, or like Soulbra's account. Like, what would it feel like? But I think at the highest level, like, I can become a conduit just as much if I'm going by my name versus not. But yeah, I'd love to hear more about the authenticity and like the channeling and how things come through you.
100%. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because authenticity is authenticity, and people can pick it up, and people can sniff BS from a mile away. So that's like, I never tried to trick anyone, and I was never interested in marketing gimmicks or trying to win in the short run, because this means so much more to me. I mean, like, the whole reason I started the account was because it felt selfish not to. It felt like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this needs to go out in the world. And I don't know if it's just who I am, but like, it has to come out. And if it doesn't come out, I'm like, start to feel horrible. Like, it's got to come out. It's just how it is. And one thing about pseudo anonymous or fully anonymous is like, I had to at least show the physique and stuff like that, because, right, like, I'm a health account. I talk about health stuff. And you can't just be a fat slob, like, sitting on the couch. That's why I'm always so skeptical of like anyone who talks about health, and then they like profile pictures like a statue or something. It's like, come on, what are we doing here? Like, show us what we're working with. Show us something that we can believe in. But yeah, I mean, it's been an insane journey since the beginning. You and I were talking about, like, I was just shooting from the hip with this thing. Like since the beginning, you know, I was just shooting from the hip. And like we said, like just posting like beef testicle ceviche and like liver, like eating raw liver and stuff. And it's taken on a life of its own. And I'm so glad that it has, because it's opened so many doors for me. And I wouldn't be the person that I am now without it. And if anyone's listening to this, you're thinking about creating on social media, you're thinking, whatever, stop thinking, just do it. Just start, just do it. Literally do it today. Post your first reel, whatever. Go anonymous if you have to. Like when I was first started my account, I was working in finance in New York. Like I had a real corporate job, right? And you know, I thought like, ooh, what if I come in and was like, hey, here's Veritas, like, you know, and you just have to not care. Honestly, not caring is a superpower, because what is caring, right? Like think about it. It's your ego getting in the way of your heart. It's like, oh wait, but wait. It's like, no, that voice sucks, and that voice is going to lead you down the wrong path. You have to just lean into your edge and trust yourself. And I promise you, like crazy doors are going to open in your life. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
So tell me more about this start, because the start is what separates 99% of people, right? Like one little decision to say, okay, fuck it, I'm going to post this, leads to an entirely different life. It's so crazy how that butterfly effect works. But take me back to that internal dialogue. Like you're like hundreds of thousands and millions of young men right now in the US who are working a finance job, but like secretly on the side, they're like super into fitness and health. And they have this voice in their head that's like, fuck, maybe I could do this, but like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know if I should create. I don't know how to write. What are my friends from high school going to think about me? Like I could think about a handful of people in my life right now who are in this exact situation. So take me back to that. And like, what do you think allowed you to just go beyond it and transcend it and start creating?
So it was kind of like the baby steps approach, where I was doing this anonymously, fully anonymously. Actually, any OG will remember that I had like full face blur and everything. Like I was fully anonymous, but I did the face blur so I had some proof of work, right? Like I was an in shape guy. I wasn't just talking out of my ass about whatever I was putting out there. So I would just say do that. Like you don't have to follow this standard mold of like Gymshark, protein like influencer, whatever. You don't have to follow that mold. And if you feel like that mold is like weird or saturated or played out and you don't want to do it, dude, imagine how many other people feel that way. Don't do it. Do something different. The reason you feel that is like, do I really want to do this? No, don't do that. Do it your own way. Do it your own way. And doing it your own way is going to lend itself towards more fear in a way, because like you don't have that product market fit, let's call it, right? Like, there's a market out there for this other way because you see all these people doing it. Dude, do it your own way. Even though you don't have the market, you don't have the validation, let's say, like it will come. And, I have this theory, like, no one believes in you until it's too late or until it's the consensus bet, right? Like when you're just going off, really nobody believes in you. And then all of a sudden you hit a couple homers. Oh, wait. Oh, how's your thing going? Really? You did this? And then it's like, oh, you're safe now. Now you're the safe bet. So it's like, just speed run that as fast as you can. Get from that painful beginning to that consensus bet as fast as you can. And even if you don't get there, who cares? Because that should be the litmus test. The litmus test should be, dude, I legitimately don't care if I get like one like on this post, like for the next 20 months. Like, I don't care if I don't make $1 for the next 6 months, because I love this so much and I can't imagine not doing it. And some people might get intimidated by that and think like, okay, wait, well, what do I love? What do I like doing? Do it this way. Start by process of elimination. You already know the things you don't like. No one knows what they want to do. So just find the things you don't like and stop doing them. And eventually you're just going to find, wow, I'm doing all these things that fill my cup. I'm living this joyous and enriched life that I never thought was possible. You will get there if you just eliminate the things you don't enjoy first.
I love that. You've got me introspecting right now. Even being 2.5 years into this game, what about this game do I truly love? And the first thing that comes up is writing. I love writing. It's so fun. But sometimes I get away from that because I'm like, I got to build a product. I got to market it, blah, blah, blah. But that writing was the first love that broke me into the arena. But I think yours even maybe goes deeper because it was first health and then the desire to create it. So where did this curiosity for maybe the more esoteric principles of health come from, right? Because most guys are like, they start going to the gym, they track their calories, they know about protein. But if anybody looks at your content, you're into some much more esoteric stuff, which I'd love to get into. But when did that begin?
Yeah, so it was kind of just being an experiment, like treating your life like an experiment. And honestly, a big portion of it was like when I took this finance job in New York, moved out there, living on my own, and I had like a sick apartment, which is nice. But living on your own is huge. It's so like undervalued. People don't really talk about it, but like especially as a young man, go somewhere new and live alone. I think like having roommates is super normalized especially in the US, but don't do it. Avoid it if you can, because that isolation, it doesn't even have to be isolation. Like you go out, do a bunch of stuff, meet a bunch of people, but having the freedom to be isolated whenever you want. Okay. Like I might be doing like Tibetan throat singing on my couch, and it's like my roommates are gonna be like, what the fuck, dude? You know? So living alone and being in that space where it's just like, dude, I'm going to do whatever I want right now just because I'm kind of interested. And that's exactly what I did. And I started doing like deep body scans where I would literally just stand or sit, and I would just like treat my, like, dude, like I was doing a whole scan of my body, and I would literally feel like every muscle fiber twitch. And it was so weird, honestly. Like I had just never experienced that before. And I just gained this tremendous like knowledge of what was like wrong in my body. Certain things weren't like moving right. I'm like, hey, why can't I move that? I was like, oh, I got injured here playing soccer 5 years ago or whatever. And the bone is like kind of, and yeah, that was big. Honestly, just like getting in touch with your body in that sense. And it just leads to introspection in other ways. But that's huge because it's like all the answers are within you, as corny as that sounds. And the more you go within, the more you're going to know. You're going to reach these perspectives. And then you read a book, all of a sudden you're like, wait, I got that. I didn't need so-and-so to tell me this. And that's how you know it's a universal truth, because universal truths are accessible to everyone, no matter who you are. All you have to do is look. As weird as that might sound.
No, it's incredible. And it's not the answer I was expecting. I was expecting like, oh, I like started going on Twitter and reading all these guys. It's like, no, go live by yourself and you'll find out who you actually are. I resonated on such a deep level, dude, because I had roommates for such a long time. And when you're living with people, or even when you're in a conversation with people, you're always in a co-created experience, right? You're always thinking of their interests, their curiosities, their desires, and you're not fully with yourself and alone with God, essentially, right? To talk to your higher self, to actually sit there with a bunch of books around you and be like, huh, what is interesting right now? So fucking valuable. And I think I've been kind of going deep into Carl Jung and the process of individuation, right? Like the development of the psyche, becoming your highest self, your most well-rounded, holistic self. And I feel like this process of individuation is actually what separates any creator from another creator. It's right. How unique can you become? What's the fullest version of you that then you share to the world? But how do you become the fullest version of you unless you spend a lot of time with only yourself to figure out who that actually is? And then you separate from society. So I love that. I did not expect you to go there.
Yeah, dude, you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's a co-created space, right? You might not realize it, but even if it's just your subconscious picking something up, it's like you won't say the certain thing, you won't go to the certain place. All your friends are going here, so you go there. You get pulled into this other reality. And that can be great. Like, it's great to go out and meet people and do things, don't get me wrong, but change requires change. Like, everyone wants to change until it's time to change. Like, everyone likes this idea of like, oh man, I could just become my highest self and I could just bloom into this wonderful rose. And I know that I'm always meant to be that. And I'm meant to be this fullest expression of myself. And I would just love it. But it's like, okay, when's the last time you sat down alone like for an extended period of time? You know? And that will do it, man. Just sitting alone, meditating, journaling was huge for me. That was like, to go back to your original question, like journaling was massive. And I started to get into affirmations. Dude, I used to make fun of my sister for playing her little affirmation track in the living room. Like, oh, I'm abundant. Like, I would make fun. I would literally, and then I started doing the same thing, writing it down in my journal. And I'm like, wow, this stuff works. And it's insane because I was reaching, this is going to be an out there analogy and maybe like 4 people are going to get it. But if you've ever trained a chat GPT model, okay, like if you've ever made your own, you can make your own, you pay like $20 a month. It's worth it. Anybody listening should do it. Okay, you go in and you train it, right? You're giving it these prompts. Hey, don't do that. In the future, remember this. That's like your higher self talking to your subconscious. For the 5 people that get that, stay with me. It's like you write the prompts, and if your prompt is, I live the truest expression of myself. My soul is so happy with who I choose to be. I inspire thousands of people every day. It's literally just a matter of time until the subconscious, the GPT, whatever you want to call it, takes that script and runs with it. Like, I cannot give you the woo-woo explanation, the science or whatever, but it is real and it will have a dramatic effect. And the easiest way to understand that is to just think how you would feel if you repeat it to yourself every day. I'm a depressed person. I'm sick. Money doesn't work for me. Money's hard to get. Versus if you just told yourself, I'm vital. I'm happy. I'm enjoying life. I'm living to the fullest expression of myself. I'm proud of who I am. I create wealth and abundance effortlessly. Which one of those, like, just hearing me say it, which one of those feels good? And which one of those feels like, I feel like I'm like decaying? It's self-revelatory, and all the truest things are.
I love that. And I've been going deeper into these laws of the universe, laws of abundance, manifestation, quantum physics. It's all the same thing. And I think the key little add-on there, because of course the words we speak over ourselves are so important, right? Like, I observe this a lot in college right now. I'll go into the weight room and I'll ask my teammates, like, yo, how you doing? And a lot of the times it's like, fuck, dude, I'm so tired. Like, fuck, I got this fucking stupid test. And like, that's always a good test for me of how committed am I to choosing very intentional language to speak over myself. But at the same time, these words of affirmation, I feel like they can be empty. And this is what Joe Dispenza talks about and these other teachers, if the feeling is not associated with it. So yes, saying I am vital while you're looking at yourself in the mirror can be helpful. Actually feeling what does vitality feel like and saying that over and over, I am vital, I am vital, I am vital. And like, my whole body gets invigorated. That is what causes it to manifest more in the future. So it's the feeling that is the key to the manifestation. The words can guide the feeling. But it seems like you naturally kind of do that throughout. Okay, if you say I'm depressed, of course you're going to feel down. If you say I'm vital and healthy, of course you're going to feel up. So I love these esoteric, spiritual laws of the universe type of truths. Something else we were talking about before hopping on was illuminating experiences. You mentioned this term, which I had to write down because I'm like, that's so interesting. And it actually sounds a bit like my friend Danny Miranda, who I'm doing a podcast with next. His book he is writing called Divine Moments seems very similar. So tell me about what is an illuminating experience, and maybe if you could highlight some of them over this journey.
Yeah. So I'm forever indebted really to God's grace just for kind of showing me the way. Like, I mean, like, I don't know what it was, but it was like, he just kind of like hit me upside the head and was like, dude, this is reality. You need to like just tune everything else out. This is what's real. And, you know, those things are priceless because they change your life on a dime. And I'll give you one example. So this goes back to the living alone thing. When you live alone, you can do whatever you want, like watch videos of how strangers met on YouTube and how they first fell in love. And I'm not like a big YouTube like brain rot guy. Okay. So I never watch these videos, right? But this one just kind of stuck out to me. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. Let's see what's up here. And, you know, I'm like 15 minutes in, some random thing. And then the couple is talking, saying, the guy's like, we fell in love doing this. This is when I knew. And then the lady starts talking. She's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just had this feeling like this lady was insincere. Like she didn't actually like this guy, or she was like, whatever was going on, right? I just had that feeling. Closed my laptop, didn't finish the video, went to bed. The next day, I got on the bus to go to work, and that couple got on right next to me. This is a super viral video on YouTube. It had maybe like 50 million plays, maybe more. The same exact couple was waiting for the bus stop. They got on right next to me. My whole body got goosebumps. And I didn't even say a word to them because I just knew in that moment that was God showing me, be very careful what you think about, because it will come to pass in your reality.
Wow. Dude, I got tears like arising, just like that's the indicator of truth in my body hearing that, right? Was that the first illuminating experience in your life?
It was weird. I felt like I had like a dozen of these things happen in a very short period of time. And that's when I knew I just had to dedicate my life to God, whatever that meant. It was like, and that's why like Veritas came to be, because it was like Veritas means truth and God is truth. And if I can dedicate myself to that, then I will have done right. You know, so one of these other things, it's not like as insane like that other one, but I would be going to drive somewhere. Like I used to get my water from a spring out in New Jersey, and I would drive like 30-45 minutes to this remote spring to fill up these big glass 5-gallon jugs to get my water, and that would last me for like a month. And so I was just driving, and I just felt like, you know, you feel sometimes like your attention just goes somewhere. You're like, wait, what's over here? And I look over the license plate, and it's just G0D. You know, and it's like that. I feel like has happened so many times. Like I'd be just walking, and my attention just goes here, and I look up at the sweatshirt in front of me of the guy, and it says God is everywhere. You know, that's another one that happened. And it's like I don't write them all down. I probably don't even remember them all. I really should, but enough of those things happen to you, and you're like, okay, what's going on? you start to pick up on things a little more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here reflecting on how grateful I am that these moments were happening to you. And also, this is going to sound pretty out there, but like that you did not fall asleep working a finance job in New York. I think that is what happens to most people. Like you work that job for 2, 3, 5 years and you're 25, and now like that glimmer you had in your eye as a kid or even as a teenager, it evaporates. And so I'm just sitting here grateful that you never fell asleep and you always kept an eye open, because those same signs and synchronicities wouldn't have actually appeared unless your eyes were open to see it.
Yeah. And as much as I bash on the global corp culture, like I'll be fully honest, even though I was working like one of the top tier investment banks in the world, I still felt like it was a cakewalk. Like I still felt like it was adult daycare. And that actually gave me the opportunity to settle down. Most people would think, oh, you're working this high stress finance job. It was not really the case for me. It was actually pretty chill. And so I used that time. I was like, dude, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this to get to where I need to be. And for me, that meant a ton of introspection. Like I deleted all my personal social media. I deleted my Instagram. Obviously, I'm a creator now and I create social media stuff, but I deleted all my personal, right? No Snapchat, no Instagram, whatever. It's all gone. And I just used that time to lock in, right? And I just started reading. I started journaling. I started praying. I started going to church. I started just living in an entirely different way than I had been used to. Like I literally felt like I was reincarnated in this life. And I did that while I had this 9 to 5, So it's like the 9 to 5, I knew at a certain point, it's like, hey, my talents can be leveraged elsewhere. And if I want the highest ROI, positive impact on the world, this is probably not the place for me. And that was like the reason for leaving. It was a little bit of I felt like I was bubble wrapped as an adult and just being babysat by overweight HR managers. But, the real reason was like, dude, there's infinite leverage out there. And if you have a decent head on your shoulders, you are almost have an obligation to take advantage of that. Because if you don't, someone far less competent or maybe just not has the same talents as you is going to fill that void. They're going to fill that spot. And the world will actually be worse off because you didn't express yourself. You didn't express your talents.
That's a great perspective. And that's this interesting game we're playing of, as a creator, you're like self-actualizing in public, basically. Right? And it's like a forcing function for personal development in a way, because you have people watching you. And the only way your brand, account, business, projects grow, because everything's a mirror, is if you grow within. So that's why I'm like, if you just want to become your highest self, start creating online. It's a forcing function. But there's also this like weight of responsibility, or like, this is my mission in this lifetime, right? I think in the beginning, at least for me, it was just like, oh, I'm just like sharing my thoughts online and it's going to help me like make money so I don't have to work a job. It has evolved in these 2.5 years to become much, much, much deeper. It's like, God put you here to do exactly what you're doing right now, talking to people through the internet and sharing these messages. So it's funny how that works that way.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. And that's such a good point, is like, it really does force you to level up. Like my physique, when I first started creating on the internet, I was like, oh, I got a pretty good physique. Like it is way leveled up. And it's because like, I compare myself to like natural bodybuilders that I follow now. It's like your sphere of comparison drastically rises versus like you could be the most fit guy out of your group. You're feeling good. Hey, we're gonna have some beers this weekend. Like, no worries. It's like, dude, I'm fit. What are you talking about? Now it's like, what? How do I get to 5% body fat? Like, So it just changes. It forces you to level up.
Yeah, and it can very much change your self-image. So I just was going to write a tweet about this and I didn't have time because I was rushing to get on this pod, but I changed my profile picture on social media like 5 days ago from like maybe like a normal creator headshot with smiling with like a blue background that's like more like creator, guru, writer, to me shirtless under the sun in Austin, Texas. And in these 5 days, I have started posting more and more about health. I've started posting off the cuff, just like stream of consciousness about energy, much more. And I realized, oh, I've actually made a quantum leap in my self-image by changing my profile picture. I'm seeing myself differently as this reflection of changing my image. And so, you know, if you're out there and you haven't created, if you just start to put yourself online, it's like I write about health, philosophy, and stoicism. You're going to become an elevated version of that because we conform to the image that we put out to others. So that was just an introspection that I had these last few days. And I think that's what led me to reach out to you. And I feel I'm going deeper into the health space, even though like for a while I was like, maybe I should be a fitness coach. And then I was like, nah, and then maybe nah. But I definitely am noticing this quantum leap. So maybe that's an interesting topic to talk about, because you left corporate to do this full time. How long ago was that?
So I left my job in New York in July, and then I basically traded it for another one in Texas because I wanted to come to Austin. Didn't sit right with me, left that one in October of last year. So it's been about 5 months since I fully left the globosphere.
The globosphere, that's a funny way to put it. I would love to hear about just your day-to-day experience 5 months removed from that lifestyle, because I mean, you're a health account, but like you're probably sitting under the fluorescent lights inside looking at a screen all day. Like, what does life look like for you now that you have this freedom?
So it's a good point. Like freedom, people think about freedom and it's just like, oh, freedom, I want freedom. You don't really want freedom. What you want is purpose. Okay. Because too much freedom is actually crippling, and too much freedom will destroy you, because freedom without purpose, without routine and mission and schedule is nothing. And you're just going to be like a dust ball floating in the wind. So what you really need is like something that you care about working on. Like you're never going to escape work. You know, people think like, oh, I'll do this and then I made it. Even the guy who makes it, now he's just twiddling his thumbs. He wants to go back to work. He has nothing to do. If you're a man, you're wired for purpose and mission. You know, like back in the day, we were just like spearing buffalo, and that was dope, you know, but it's like the hunt never ended. Like the families get hungry, you know, no one stops getting hungry, and your drive never goes away, and it never should, because when it does, that's when you die as a man. So it's like, you don't want unlimited freedom, really. What you want is the freedom to pursue your highest passion, your highest calling, your truest expression. That's what fills your cup. And when you help others doing it, that's you giving back. And it's like, that really is what people want. They just don't realize it yet.
I resonate. So I do want to talk about your lifestyle, like the health and stuff, but I want to make a quick point on that. So when I went to Thailand this summer, about, what is that, 8-9 months ago, I had worked really fucking hard from the previous October until June, like 8 months of absolute grinding, probably too much, right? Which led to me going to the other end of the spectrum and living like a feather in the wind for 3 months in Thailand. And while that experience was beautiful, I wasn't working. I didn't make a dollar. I was literally just a nomad traveling around, living out of my backpack in hostels. That was a beautiful experience and I wouldn't change it. But what I realized at the end of it, when I started to think about business again, when I started to think about creating again, I realized my soul craved purpose so, so much. And so, yeah, on the surface, it's like, I just want to be free. But this quote you just said, I'm going to put it on Twitter and tag you. You say you don't really want freedom, you want purpose. I was like, that's a banger. So tell me about right now. You're living more in integrity with your purpose fully, right? You're doing this full time, you're doing it all day. What does a day look like for you?
So, I mean, I don't even know if I'd say like I'm doing it full time. Like, I feel like full time, I like work out and like make meals, you know? Because I've been working out like twice a day, running sprints on the beach or doing morning cardio and then hitting my weightlifting session after on. And usually between those is like a little work block. And then after that, you'll have another work block. But, you know, I'm just kind of taking this time as like a mini retirement, basically. Like I grinded for what, 3 years right out of college, saw what all that was about. And I think people get obsessed with this idea of linearity. Like, oh, I'm going to get the corner office, then I'm going to get the blah, 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 then I'm going to get the raise, then I'm going to get this. It's like, as long as you're going up, things are good. But linearity detracts from exponentiality. And you might have a couple bumps if you want to go exponential, but then all of a sudden you're literally just going to go vertical and your life is going to 10x. And that's kind of like something that I've just had an underlying belief about myself and my life always. You know, I've just always had that belief. Like, even when I didn't have the results to show for it, I still did. And that will take you really far, because unwavering conviction will not allow you to surrender. It will not allow you to quit. It will not allow you to give up. It will not allow you to be swayed by the inputs of others. That unbelievable, undeniable conviction that you don't even ever have to say anything about. You literally don't even ever have to talk about it. You don't have to tell anyone. It's just something that's special to you. And it will take you farther than anything else, because it's within you. It's that fire within you, and no one can put it out.
Incredible.
I don't know if I answer your question at all.
Yeah. I mean,
I think I just went on a rant.
That's great. The rant was definitely needed and necessary, but yeah, I love this idea of a mini retirement. But even like in a retirement, it still seems like you're putting in the work. You're not just like sipping margaritas on the beach. But it seems like you're able to be a little bit calculated and patient with what the next move is, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this full time, but like, what is the quantum leap exponential 10x move, rather than needing to force and rush your way into it? I think it's really wise.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I saved some money when I was working, right? So it's like, I don't feel that desperation where it's like, I need to do this, otherwise I'm literally not going to be able to like survive this month. I don't feel that way. And, you know, that's another benefit. It's like, work with what you have. Like, be honest with yourself. What do I have? What do I have going for me? It's like, you see this guy grinding and then you think like, oh, I gotta grind. It's like, why do you think that? Your situation might be completely different. Like, if you have some money in the bank, why not just relax for a bit? Clear your mind, get clear on your objective and your mission and your values. In the process, you're going to connect with people. Things are going to align for you. You're going to meet the right business partner. You're going to make the right connection. And then you'll have that aha moment. Oh my gosh, wait, I need to produce this because this is what people need. That's when it clicks. It's like, that might sound unorthodox and weird, and it might be a little stressful if you've been like coaxed into that idea of linearity. Constant linearity is like, dude, the money's in the rise and the fall. Like, that's where the freaking that's where the juice is, you know? Freaking ride that roller coaster, baby, because you're gonna live to tell a great story.
I can't help but be curious about how you develop this perspective. Like, even working in the depths of the programming and in the matrix, like, it seems like you maintained this devotion to self-sovereignty and individual thinking. Like, was that always within you, or did it only come on later online?
No, I was definitely like blissfully unaware in college, like for sure. You know, I was just out getting blasted, like freaking doing God knows what, you know? And what really helped me was like, I just went through a big breakup with my ex-girlfriend. I started this new job, moved out to a completely different city. I didn't know anybody. I mean, a couple of my friends from college were there, but for the most part, never been there before, living on my own. And I just used that. Like, I just used it. I'm like, dude, what can I do here? Because from the second I walked into the door, it took me like 2 weeks to figure out, dude, this is going to be easy. Like, this is a cakewalk. So I'm like, I never saw it like, this is my career, this is my future. I saw it like, okay, I've got some stability here. How do I maximize my time before and after work, or even during, to set myself up for where I want to be in the phase that I want to be in? So it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get in trouble for saying this now, but I would take like lunch breaks and go to a Starbucks, chef up some content. You know, I would, on remote days, be reading like out in the sunlight in the park. Like, I used it, you know, and it goes back to like, you have to look at your circumstances, look around you. What do I have? What do I have going for me? Turn your strengths into super strengths, turn your strengths into superpowers, and then turn your weaknesses into strengths. Like, as weird as that sounds, it's not that hard. You know what I mean? Like, I'll give you an analogy or an example from the gym. Like, I could never get my triceps to grow. It was just hard. Like, I didn't have the mind muscle connection. Now I've just focused on it so much that I've developed them a lot, right? Like, you find a new exercise, you find a new routine, you just keep going at it. Just because there's a wall doesn't mean you have to go through it. You might go around it, you might jump over it. You know, people don't think about it. They just think, oh, go through the wall, go through the wall. Like, no, hey, use your brain, use your brain. You don't have to do it that way. So there's so many options out there. And when you actually follow that strategy, you won't be like anyone else, because you'll have done it your way. You won't have just subscribed to some like prescription pill method. Like, you'll have done it in a way that's uniquely yours, and people will love you that much more for it.
Incredible. I think we have time for one more question. So on this note of uniqueness, I love this, right? We talked about individuation, uniqueness, self-actualization. What do you think is your unique edge, or like your unique philosophy around the world that nobody else shares?
Dude, it's funny because it's like, it comes and goes, right? Like, I feel like it will just come from a deeper place. Like, whatever, this is why I don't like really schedule content or anything. And whatever comes up is what comes out. And that's the best way to be. Maybe that's my unique philosophy, is like, people set up too many filters around what they think is going to be okay to be perceived as. People really only live through the perception of others. You know, people don't really think, well, what about how I feel in my soul, until they get, and it's too late, you know, until they're on their deathbed and they think, was it really so hard to just have the courage to be who I wanted to be? And it's like, oh, it's self-explanatory, dude. Just go out, do it. Who cares? Everyone else will tell you that. But then it's like, well, what are you doing in your own life? You're like, oh, well, I can't because this and so and so and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Hey, if you told me it was so easy, why can't you do it? And it's the truth is, it's scary, and people are scared of being judged. You know, like, people are scared of being embarrassed. And this is a really long answer to your question, but I'm just about to make it even longer. And that fear is so poisonous. Like, it's like, what does it come from? You know, why are you scared? Well, maybe you were put down by somebody else. Maybe when you were younger, something happened, was not a good experience. So here's how to get around it. Like, if you're listening to this and you feel like you're paralyzed by fear, let me just tell you something. Everyone is. And everyone actually feels that way. They just might not admit it, you know? So to break it, what do you need to do? Think about why. Why are you scared? And just, you don't have to, it's a choice. It's an option. Face it head on. And it's like a scarecrow in a field. Like, the scarecrow is not real. It just keeps the crows away because they think it's whatever. I don't really know how scarecrows work, but it's like it's not real, you know, and your fears are the same way. They're illusory. And when you confront them, and the best way to confront them is just action. Just do the thing you've been thinking about. And I promise you, it's so much worse in your head. It's so much worse in your own imagination. And when you actually do it, you think, huh, that wasn't that hard. But you don't realize it, but you just saved yourself 25 years because so many people live in that paralysis. They never take step one. So just by taking step one, dude, you just saved yourself decades.
Last question I have to ask before we hop. How did you transcend that fear of what others think of you? What was your internal dialogue in step one?
It was literally knowing that I needed to do something. I needed to do this in one way, shape, or form or another, and not doing it for so long. And I was like, oh, I can't take this anymore. I don't care. Like, because it felt worse inside of me knowing that I could live this different life. I could do it. I could actually do it. But why won't I take step one? It was just this mental block. And you know how I got over it? I just hit post. Like, it doesn't matter, you know, just hit post and figure it out as long as you go. You will figure it out if you just don't quit. There's really only two steps. Start, don't quit. Like, you will surpass 99% of people if you just do that.
Man, you're dropping some like banger Twitter one-line platitudes that just like would go viral, especially like 3 years ago. They would just go crazy viral. But
Well,
man,
I do, baby.
I could tell you live it. You live it, and you live in the frequency, right? Like, I think it's going to be cool for people to see this on Twitter who just read your writing, right? And don't know that there's like a real person behind the account who's living in this elevated frequency and laughing the whole time and is also like kind of a stoic philosopher. I mean, this has been really fun, dude. I really enjoyed this. And I had a bunch of like health things I actually wanted to get into. Like, how would you recommend like me living in the winter in Chicago, like maximize my vitality and all these different things? But maybe the actual health things are supposed to be saved for the next episode.
Bar. Yeah, we might have to definitely run this back for sure. It was a lot of fun, man. I enjoyed it.
For sure, man. So before we hop, where can people find you? And then what can they expect from you?
Veritas Ananda on Twitter and Live Veritas on Instagram. You can expect some esoteric musings on the health and wellness space, maybe some inspirational writings, and whatever might be brewing on that specific day. I stuttered, man. You gave me all this praise and admiration, and I just freaking froze up on you.
It's all good. It's all good. Now I'll link those below, and definitely check this dude out. Every day I go on Twitter, I see his stuff. It's like a little burst of positive emotion and motivation. So I appreciate the work you're doing. I feel it. And yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. Until next time.
Love and blessings.
Appreciate you, bro.
Peace.